The end of the year carries a very specific, almost electric energy. There is immense cultural pressure for closure, for forgiveness, for renewal, and above all, for hope. You look at the calendar and feel an urgency. The need to leave the bad things behind and believe that the next 12 months will be different. This is the moment when your guard drops, not out of weakness, but because you are human and you desire peace. And it is exactly here, in this crack of vulnerability and optimism, that the narcissist sets their most sophisticated trap. You've probably felt this firsthand. Maybe the year was a living hell, filled with discards, silent treatments, betrayals, and circular arguments. But as December progresses, something changes. Suddenly, that cold and distant person begins to thaw. Plans emerge, apologies that seem sincere emerge, promises that this new year, everything is going to change emerge. He looks you in the eyes during the countdown, and you feel that familiar chill. Hope floods you. You think, now he gets it. Now it will be different. The relief is so great it's almost physical. But I need you to pay close attention to what I'm going to tell you now. This is not an epiphany. This is not a change in character. What happens at the turn of the year is not a Christmas miracle. It is a tactical retention maneuver. The narcissist knows you are taking stock of your life and considering leaving. He knows that New Year's is an inflection point. Therefore, what he offers is not love. It's a game designed to ensure that when the clock strikes midnight, you still belong to him, trapped in yet another 365-day cycle of confusion. Today, we are going to dismantle this game piece by piece, so you can see what is really behind this mask of renewal. My name is Lauren Mitchell. My purpose with this channel is to show you that the problem was never you, and more importantly, that you are not alone. Let's visualize the scenario, because it is painfully common and follows an almost identical script in toxic homes around the world. For months, you've been devalued. You've dealt with the silent treatment, with veiled criticisms of your appearance, your work, your sanity. You spent October and November walking on eggshells, exhausted, feeling like the relationship was hanging by a thread. Maybe you even confided in a friend or therapist that if things don't change, I'm out of here next year. The narcissist, who is an expert reader of your emotions, not for empathy, but to collect data, notices this shift. He senses your emotional distancing or your exhaustion. He knows your supply tank is almost empty and that you are dangerously close to reaching your limit. Then, December arrives, and with it, the metamorphosis. Suddenly, he becomes helpful. He asks about the holiday dinner, suggests a trip, buys that gift you mentioned months ago and thought he hadn't even heard. He starts using catchphrases. I know I wasn't easy this year, but I've reflected a lot. Or, I want to be the man you deserve in 2024. For you, who are starving for any crumb of affection and validation, this is like water in the desert. Your brain, addicted to the intermittent chemistry of this relationship, clings to these signs as proof that the good man from the beginning of the relationship still exists. Cognitive dissonance kicks in with full force. You erase the bad memories of the last 11 months and focus exclusively on these last 15 days of kindness. New Year's Eve is usually the climax of this performance. There might be a grand gesture, an emotional toast, or a moment of intense intimacy where he cries or shows vulnerability. He sells you the image of the perfect family, the unbreakable couple. You take a deep breath and think, phew, it's over. The nightmare is over. But what do you feel in the following days? A strange sensation that something doesn't fit, because despite the beautiful words, his energy remains the same. The change is performative, not structural. You realize that to maintain this new phase, you are policing yourself even more than before, afraid to ruin the magical moment he created. You aren't living through a renewal, you are living through a temporary truce, and this truce comes with a very high price that we are going to start decoding now. The first psychological pillar of this game is what we'll call seasonal future faking. You're likely familiar with the term future. Faking, the promise of a future that will never arrive. The narcissist uses this all the time, but at New Year's, this tactic gains devastating power because it aligns with the culture around us. The whole world is talking about goals, resolutions, and changes. The narcissist hitches a ride on this collective wave to give credibility to his lies. At this time of year, the narcissist isn't just promising to change, he's selling a complete life script for the coming year. This year, we're buying that house. This year, we're having a baby. This year, I'm going to stop drinking, gambling, talking. To those women, this year, we're going to travel the world. Why does he do this? First, to buy time. The narcissist operates in the immediate. He needs to solve the problem of you being dissatisfied right now. Promising something grand for July or October is a cheap way to ensure your compliance. In January and February, he is financing your hope in installments. He gives you a post-dated check for happiness that he knows will bounce, but he knows you won't try to cash that check for months. Second, to drain supply. Your reaction to these promises is his supply. When your eyes light up, hearing his plans, when you become affectionate, grateful, and dedicated again, he feels powerful. He feels like the creator of your reality. He feeds on your anticipated joy, even knowing that he will be the cause of your future disappointment. The cruel detail is that many of these promises touch your deepest wounds. If you complain that he is absent, he promises presence. If you complain about financial insecurity, he promises prosperity. He mirrors exactly what you need to hear to let your guard down. But observe the structure of the promise. It is always vague on the details of how it will be done, and grand on the result. There is no real action plan. There's no therapy scheduled, no budget spreadsheet, no change in routine. There are only magic words cast into the New Year's wind. Seasonal future faking serves to trap you in the fantasy. As long as you are in love with the potential of what will be, you stop looking at the brutal reality of what is. You fall in love with next year and forget to protect yourself in the current one. If the first pillar is about selling the future, the second pillar is about erasing the past. Let's call this enforced selective amnesia. The narcissist uses the turn of the calendar as a kind of moral sanitary barrier. The perverse logic he tries to implant in your mind is this: what happened in 2023 stays in 2023. Now it's 2024, a fresh start. It sounds like a beautiful and even healthy concept, right? Leaving the past lies behind. The problem is how this is applied within an abusive dynamic. For a healthy person, turning the page requires resolving the issues on the previous page. It requires genuine apologies, making amends, and behavioral change. For the narcissist, turning the page means instant impunity. He uses the holiday to invalidate any of your complaints about previous behaviors. If on January 5th, you try to talk about a betrayal you discovered in December, or about a hurt that still stings, his reaction will be explosive indignation or cold disappointment. He will say things like, "Wow, you just can't move on. It's a whole new year. You love living in the past. That's why we never move forward. I thought we agreed to start over, but you're just resentful." Notice the manipulation. By bringing up an unresolved problem, you become the villain who is ruining the new phase. He flips the script. The victim isn't you who was hurt. The victim becomes him, who is trying to change, but is being held back by your negativity. This creates a forced silencing. You swallow your tears, swallow your hurt, and repress your intuition. Also, you won't be accused of being the toxic person who won't let the relationship thrive. Enforced selective amnesia is a powerful control tool. It zeroes out the ledger of his mistakes, but keeps the ledger of your failures intact. He doesn't forget what you did wrong, but he demands that you forget what he did that was cruel. New Year's serves as a giant rug to sweep the dirt under, and you are forced to walk over that rug pretending there aren't mountains of trash under your feet. We now reach the deepest and most counterintuitive level of this game. What does this fresh start really mean to the narcissist? Most victims believe the fresh start is an attempt to improve the relationship. But in the narcissist's mind, the new year is an opportunity to renegotiate the terms of your submission. This is the hidden contract of submission. When he says, "Let's make it work this time," what he is thinking, and what his actions will soon demonstrate is, "Let's make it work my way. This time you won't complain so much. This time you will accept my absences without question. This time you will be the perfect source of supply." The honeymoon phase at the beginning of the year isn't free. It's a down payment that creates a debt. Because he was so nice at New Year's, because he took you on a trip, or was kind to your mother, he now feels he has unlimited credit. Within the first weeks of the year, you will notice the bill coming due. If you ask for attention, he'll say, "But I already did all that for you at New Year's." You're never satisfied. That moment of kindness becomes a weapon to silence you in the months to follow. More than that, the narcissist projects his own fragility and fear of abandonment onto the idea of a fresh start. He needs to trap you again, because he knows the mask slipped the previous year. The fresh start is, in reality, a phase of re-idealization, where he tries to turn you back into the ideal object that adores him. But because you are a real person with feelings and memories, you will fail to be that perfect object. And when you fail, by having a need, an opinion, or an emotion, the devaluation will return with full force, often worse than before. The hidden contract says, "I will be Prince Charming for a few days, provided you sign here at the bottom that you will be my obedient subject for the rest of the year. If you break this clause, by complaining, I have the right to go back to being the monster, and it will be your fault for breaking the New Year's spell." It is a perfect trap. If the relationship fails in March, he can say, "I tried. I did everything at the turn of the year, but you're impossible." He comes out as the martyr hero, and you are left with the guilt of the failure. Understanding these three pillars, seasonal future faking, selective amnesia, and the hidden contract, is the antidote to the poison of toxic hope. You need to understand that the calendar has no healing power. A change of one digit in the year does not alter anyone's personality structure, much less someone with pathological narcissistic traits. Real change requires awareness, empathy, remorse, and hard, consistent work, things the narcissist is incapable of sustaining. The relief you feel now, this promise of better days, is the calm before the storm. Do not cling to the illusion that now he gets it. He only understood what he needed to say so that you wouldn't leave. Your true new year, your true fresh start, doesn't happen when the fireworks explode in the sky. It happens when the truth explodes inside you. It happens when you decide you don't need a new year with the same old story of pain. You don't need to wait for January 1st to change your life. You can declare your emotional independence on any random Tuesday, on a rainy day in March, or right now. Freedom isn't a date on the calendar. Freedom is an internal decision to stop buying tickets to a movie you already know the ending to. May your year truly be new. Not because he changed, but because you changed the key to the door and decided that this time, he's not coming in anymore. Feel free to leave your story, your vent, or even a topic suggestion for the next video in the comments below. Access the link in the description to check out my ebook and the benefits of being a member of this channel. Click the suggested video on the screen to stay with me. And remember, you are light. Never forget to shine.